My name is Rebecca Mitchell, 34, a financial advisor in Boston. When I opened my home safe yesterday, my heart stopped. $500,000 in government securities vanished. I remembered seeing my sister Amanda leaving my house earlier. My first panicked call went straight to her voicemail. The safe wasn't broken into. It was opened with the combination only 3 people knew: me, my father, and my sister. Before I dive into this nightmare, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to join this community. Trust me, what happened next is something everyone with families should hear. I built my career as a financial advisor from scratch. After graduating with honors from Boston University, I spent 12 years climbing the ladder at one of Boston's most prestigious financial firms. My specialty was helping clients protect their assets for the long term, ironically. 3 years ago, I made senior advisor, managing over $200 million in client investments, specializing in government securities and tax-advantaged structures. My success allowed me to purchase a beautiful brownstone in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood. I'd spent weekends restoring its original hardwood floors and transforming the 3rd floor into a home office with views of the Charles River. It was my sanctuary, my achievement, paid for entirely through my own hard work. My father, Richard, had been my role model in financial responsibility. A former bank executive, he taught me everything about money management from the time I was old enough to count. Every Sunday growing up, we'd sit at the kitchen table reviewing investment portfolios. While other kids got allowances, I got lessons in compound interest. Money requires respect, he always said. Respect what it can do for you and what it can do to you. My relationship with Amanda, my younger sister by 3 years, was complicated. Where I was responsible and methodical, Amanda was impulsive and carefree. Growing up, she was the wild child who dropped out of college to find herself, cycling through careers like fashion buyer, yoga instructor, and aspiring actress. Each venture ended the same way, with our parents bailing her out. "You just don't understand what it's like to be passionate about something," she'd tell me when I suggested budgeting. Not everyone wants to sit behind a desk counting other people's money. Despite her dismissive attitude, I'd tried repeatedly to help her get financially stable. I'd set up investment accounts for her, created budget templates, even offered to pay for financial therapy. She'd accept the help, then ignore my advice completely. 2 weeks ago, we gathered for dinner celebrating Dad's retirement. Mom had prepared his favorite pot roast, and we toasted his 40 years in banking. "I've made some decisions about the future," he announced over dessert. "I'm restructuring some assets, and I'd like Rebecca to help manage a portion of the family investments." Amanda's fork paused midway to her mouth. "What about me? Don't I get any say?" Dad patted her hand. "Honey, this is about management, not inheritance. You'll get your share eventually, but Rebecca has the expertise to grow what we have." Later that night, as I was gathering my coat to leave, Amanda cornered me in the hallway. "So how exactly are you managing Dad's money?" she asked, her tone overly casual. "Just helping with allocation and tax planning," I answered. "Nothing exciting." "Where do you keep important documents?" "In that fancy safe you mentioned getting?" Warning bells should have sounded, but I was distracted by a text from a client. "Yeah, it's a Liberty home safe. Fire and waterproof." "Smart," she nodded. "What if there's an emergency, and you're not around? Does anyone else have access?" I hesitated. "Dad has the combination, for emergencies. Shouldn't I have it too? I mean, what if something happens to both of you?" Against my better judgment, I wrote down the combination. "Only for absolute emergencies, Amanda. I'm serious." The safe contained my most valuable possession: $500,000 in Series EE government securities inherited from my grandmother. These weren't just any investments, they were structured with special tax advantages that would be lost if transferred or cashed early. Grandmother had specifically designated them for me, having recognized my financial responsibility, with instructions they remain untouched until maturity in 3 years. I never imagined that sharing the combination would lead to complete disaster just 14 days later. I was supposed to be in New York until Friday for a financial conference, but my meeting with a potential client canceled unexpectedly. Deciding to make the most of the situation, I caught an early train back to Boston, arriving home around 2 p.m. on Wednesday. The moment I stepped into my foyer, something felt off. Nothing obvious, just small details. The throw pillows on my couch were arranged differently. The kitchen faucet dripped slightly. The scent of Amanda's distinctive perfume, Jo Malone peony and blush suede, hung faintly in the air. I told myself I was being paranoid. Amanda had a key for emergencies, but she wouldn't just drop by while I was away. I put down my bags and went to check my mail when a strange feeling stopped me. Call it intuition or financial advisor caution, something pulled me toward my home office. The Liberty safe sat in the corner, concealed behind a false panel in my bookcase. To anyone else, it would look like an ordinary shelf filled with financial textbooks and family photos. I slid the panel aside and stared at the digital keypad. My hands trembled slightly as I entered the combination. The safe should have contained several folders of important documents, my passport, and most importantly, the government security certificates in their blue protective folder. The door swung open to reveal nothing. Empty. Completely empty. I blinked hard, as if the contents might materialize if I cleared my vision. They didn't. I ran my hands along the inside of the safe, checking for some secret compartment I'd somehow forgotten about. Nothing. $500,000. Gone. My first thought was robbery, but there were no signs of forced entry either to my home or the safe itself. This was an inside job by someone who knew the combination. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and checked the security camera footage I could access remotely. There it was, Amanda entering my house yesterday afternoon, looking nervously over her shoulder before using her key. I called her immediately. Voicemail. I texted. Emergency. Call me now. No response. I called again. And again. Finally, I called my father. Dad, is Amanda with you? No. Why? He asked, his voice concerned. I need to find her immediately. The securities from grandmother are missing from my safe. What? That's impossible. I'm staring at an empty safe right now. There must be a mistake, he insisted. Amanda wouldn't do that. Maybe you moved them? Dad, I have security footage of her coming to my house while I was away. The safe was accessed with the combination, not forced open. Rebecca, this is a serious accusation. Your sister might be irresponsible sometimes, but she's not a thief. I pulled up the footage on my laptop and emailed it to him. Look at this and call me back. While waiting, I went through my house more thoroughly. In my home office wastebasket, I found a crumpled receipt from a luggage store dated yesterday. In my bathroom, the faint scent of Amanda's perfume was strongest around the safe area. Dad called back, his voice heavier. I watched the video, but this doesn't make sense. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe she needed to check something for me. Dad, $500,000 in securities is missing. After much convincing, he reluctantly agreed to meet at Amanda's apartment. We used our emergency keys to enter, finding the place in disarray. Drawers half emptied, closet partially cleared out. Her neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, poked her head in. Looking for Amanda? She left last night with 2 big suitcases, said something about a great opportunity she couldn't pass up. Dad still refused to believe the obvious. Maybe it's a work trip. Amanda doesn't have a job right now, I reminded him. Then maybe she got one, he snapped. Back in Amanda's kitchen, I found a crumpled boarding pass printout for Las Vegas shoved behind the toaster. Dad, I said quietly, showing him the paper. She's gone to Vegas, with my securities. I was on the next flight to Las Vegas, leaving my still skeptical father behind. During the flight, I contacted the Financial Crimes Division of the FBI to report the theft, then called Thomas Weaver, a colleague at the Securities and Exchange Commission. He confirmed my worst fear. If Amanda tried to liquidate the securities, Their special tax status would be immediately void, and much of their value would be lost. Plus, he added, they're registered in your name. She'd need to forge documents to cash them, which escalates this to federal securities fraud. The Las Vegas airport hit me with a wall of noise, bright lights, and desperation disguised as opportunity. I had no idea where to start looking, but I figured high-end casinos would be Amanda's style. After checking 6 different casino hotels with no luck, exhausted and desperate, I entered the Bellagio. The universe finally threw me a bone. There she was, sitting at a high-stakes poker table, laughing as she pushed forward a stack of chips. My stomach twisted when I saw how many blacks and purples were piled in front of her. Thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands. I marched straight to her table, ignoring the stares from other players. "Amanda," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We need to talk. Now." Her face went from shock to angry in seconds. "What are you doing here?" "You know exactly why I'm here. Where are the securities?" She laughed, a cold sound I'd never heard from her before. "Can't this wait? I'm on a streak." "No, it can't wait. That's $500,000 you stole from me." The table went silent. Amanda's face hardened as she stood up, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward a quieter corner. "Keep your voice down," she hissed. "You're making a scene." "I'll make more than a scene if you don't tell me where grandmother's securities are." Her eyes narrowed. "You've always had everything, Rebecca. The brains, the career, Dad's approval, grandmother's money. I deserve this." The callousness of her statement knocked the wind out of me. "You deserve to steal from me?" "I deserve a chance. Do you know what I could do with that money? I could finally start my own business, be somebody. By gambling it away? Those securities are in my name, Amanda. Even if you could cash them, which you can't legally do, you'd destroy their value." "That's not what Ryan says." "Who's Ryan?" She smirked. "My boyfriend. He knows people who can handle the conversion." Just then, a large security guard approached. "Is there a problem here, Miss Davis?" He was addressing Amanda, but using a different last name. "No problem," Amanda replied smoothly. "My sister was just leaving." "I'm not going anywhere without what belongs to me," I insisted. The guard put his hand on my shoulder. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." "She stole from me," I protested, but within minutes I found myself escorted outside to the blazing Las Vegas heat. I spent the next 3 hours trying to get back into the Bellagio, speaking to various security personnel and hotel staff, all of whom cited privacy policies and refused to help. Finally, I positioned myself across the street, watching the main entrance. Near midnight, Amanda emerged, arm in arm with a tall man with slicked-back hair and an expensive watch. I followed them at a distance to the Cosmopolitan Hotel, where they entered a high-end cocktail bar. I slipped in after them, taking a seat within earshot but out of their line of sight. "The certificates are secure," Amanda was saying. "But Rebecca showed up. She knows." "Doesn't matter," the man, presumably Ryan, replied. "My connection can convert them tomorrow. Once they're in the Cayman account, she'll never trace them." "But they're in her name. Isn't that a problem?" Ryan laughed. "That's what document specialists are for, baby. By tomorrow afternoon, it'll be like these securities always belong to our shell company." I'd heard enough. I quietly exited the bar and was heading across the hotel lobby when a hand grabbed my arm, yanking me into a service corridor. It was Ryan, his previously charming smile replaced with something predatory. "Eavesdropping isn't polite," he said, his fingers digging into my arm. "Amanda said you were the smart sister. Smart enough to know when to walk away, I hope." "Those securities are federally protected," I said. "The FBI is already involved." His grip tightened. "No one will find them once we're done. Here's some sisterly advice. Go home, file an insurance claim, and forget this happened. Otherwise, Vegas can be dangerous. People disappear all the time." He shoved me against the wall and walked away, straightening his designer jacket as he rejoined Amanda at the bar. I stood there, rubbing my bruised arm, realizing this was bigger and more dangerous than a simple family betrayal. Whatever Amanda had gotten herself into, it wasn't just about taking my money. She'd connected with professional criminals. Back in Boston, reality hit hard. The local police took my report but explained that family theft cases were complicated, especially when Amanda had key access and knew the safe combination. It becomes a civil matter when there's no breaking and entering, Officer Ramirez explained apologetically. And with the securities being in your name but potentially across state lines now, jurisdiction gets messy. She referred me to the Financial Crimes Division, who took the case more seriously but warned me their backlog was months deep. These types of securities fraud investigations take time, Detective Wilson said. We'll coordinate with Las Vegas authorities, but I recommend you also pursue civil remedies. Translation: You're largely on your own. I hired Jason Taylor, a private investigator specializing in financial crimes, and an attorney to prepare civil litigation. Family theft is surprisingly common, Jason told me, but your sister's connection to organized crime figures makes this particularly concerning. That evening, I went to my parents' house, hoping Dad would finally understand the severity of the situation. Instead, I walked into an ambush. There she is, Mom said tearfully as I entered. Please explain to your father why you're trying to have your sister arrested. Dad sat rigid in his recliner, jaw clenched. You filed police reports? FBI? Against your own sister? She stole $500,000 from me, I exclaimed. What was I supposed to do? Family matters stay in the family, he growled. You don't involve authorities. She's working with criminals, Dad. I met one of them. He threatened me. Mom gasped, but Dad scoffed. Dramatic as always, Rebecca. Amanda called us. She said you tracked her to Vegas and made a scene over some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The securities are gone. The safe is empty. Maybe, if you'd helped her more over the years, instead of always judging, Mom began. I've tried helping her for years. She rejects every attempt. Dad stood suddenly. You've always been jealous of her spirit, her freedom. You're punishing her for not being like you, controlled, cold, calculating. The accusation stung like a physical slap. Is that what you think of me? That I'm cold? I think you're blowing this out of proportion, Dad said. Amanda's going through a rough patch. She probably just needed a loan. A loan? She cleaned out my safe without asking. That's theft. Rebecca, Dad said, his voice dangerously quiet. Amanda has gambling debts. Serious ones. I stared at him. You knew? She called me last month. Some men were threatening her. I gave her what I could, but with the retirement, my resources are limited right now. So you knew she was desperate for money. You knew she had the combination to my safe, and you didn't warn me? The silence confirmed my suspicion. How long have you been covering for her, Dad? He looked away. She's vulnerable. She needs protection. And I don't? My $500,000 inheritance doesn't need protection? You've always been able to take care of yourself, he muttered. The room spun around me. My father, my role model, my financial mentor, had effectively enabled the theft of my inheritance. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. I can't believe this, I whispered, grabbing the edge of the table for support. My chest tightened painfully, and black spots danced in my vision. Mom rushed to my side. Rebecca, are you okay? I wasn't. The stress of the past days, the betrayal, the lack of sleep, it all crashed down on me at once. I collapsed into a dining chair, struggling to breathe. Should I call an ambulance? Mom asked, panicked. No, I managed. Just need a minute. Dad watched impassively, his loyalty clearly elsewhere. As I left my parents' house that night, my phone rang with an unknown number. Rebecca, it's Catherine, your mother's sister. Aunt Catherine had always been the black sheep of the family, too outspoken, too independent for my parents' taste. We hadn't spoken in years. I heard what happened, she said. Your mother called, giving me their version. I want you to know I'm on your side. What Amanda did is unforgivable, and your parents enabling her is worse. For the first time since discovering the empty safe, I felt tears burning my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "You have no idea what that means right now." "I know exactly what it means," she replied firmly. "When you've been betrayed by the people who should have your back, having just one person believe you feels like oxygen." She offered her guest room if I needed space, her shoulder if I needed to cry, and her fierce loyalty in whatever came next. "You're not alone in this fight," she promised. "And from one black sheep to another, sometimes the flock is wrong." Jason Taylor, my private investigator, arrived at my office 3 days later with a grim expression. "Your sister isn't working alone," he said, spreading photographs across my desk. "This man is Ryan Jenkins. He has connections to a financial fraud ring operating throughout the Southwest." The photos showed Amanda and Ryan meeting with various well-dressed men in Las Vegas, Miami, and the Cayman Islands. "These people specialize in laundering stolen financial instruments through offshore accounts," Jason continued. "The concerning part is this." He pointed to documents showing attempted transfers using my credentials. "They're using my identity?" I gasped. "Your professional credentials, yes. They've already attempted 2 transfers using your license number and professional signature. Fortunately, the receiving institutions flagged them for verification." This explained why my office had received strange confirmation requests. The realization sent ice through my veins. This wasn't just theft, it was identity theft and professional credential fraud that could destroy my career. I immediately called Thomas Weaver at the SEC. As a former colleague, he agreed to help track the securities off the record. "This is sophisticated," he said after reviewing the evidence. "They're moving the securities through a series of shell companies, each transfer disguising their origin a little more. If they complete the chain, they'll be virtually untraceable." That night, I returned to my brownstone to find the front door slightly ajar. Heart pounding, I backed away and called the police. The responding officers found my home office ransacked, my computer hacked, and financial documents missing. "They're escalating," Jason warned when I called him. "You should stay elsewhere for now." I checked into a hotel under Aunt Catherine's name, using cash for anonymity. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was my mother, hysterical. "Your father's had a heart attack," she sobbed. "He's at Massachusetts General." I rushed to the hospital, security concerns momentarily forgotten. Dad lay pale against the white sheets, oxygen tubes in his nose, and monitors beeping steadily. "What happened?" I asked Mom in the hallway. "2 men came to the house," she whispered. "They were looking for Amanda, saying she owed them money. Your father told them he didn't know where she was, and they got aggressive. After they left, he collapsed. I sat with Dad through the night. Near dawn, his eyes fluttered open. "Rebecca," he croaked. "I'm sorry." "Save your strength," I said. He gripped my hand with surprising force. "No, listen, Amanda. She's involved with dangerous people." I knew, but I didn't want to believe how bad it was. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep covering for her?" Dad's eyes filled with tears. "There's something you don't know. Something I've never told anyone except your mother." He took a shaky breath. "Amanda isn't your full sister. She's my daughter from a relationship before I met your mother. Her birth mother wanted nothing to do with her, so when I married your mom, we raised Amanda as our own." The revelation stunned me into silence. "I've always overcompensated," he continued. "Guilt, I suppose. Your mother accepted her completely, but I always felt I needed to make it up to Amanda somehow. By letting her steal from me? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. No, that was wrong. I was blind. These men who came today, they showed me photos of Ryan Jenkins with known criminals. They said Amanda is in over her head." A nurse entered to check Dad's vitals, ending our conversation. In the cafeteria, I stared blankly at a cooling cup of coffee, feeling the weight of years of family secrets. My phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Need to meet, as soon as possible. New development." I was about to leave when Aunt Catherine arrived at the hospital. Seeing my exhaustion, she insisted on staying with Dad so I could handle my investigation. "Your father will be fine here," she said firmly. "But if you don't stop these people, None of you will be safe for long. Jason met me at a quiet diner near the hospital. I've traced the first security to a bank in Grand Cayman, he explained. They're moving quickly, but they've hit a snag. The special registration on these securities is flagging in the international banking system. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. So they can't cash them? Not easily. But they're pursuing a different angle now, using your identity more aggressively to authorize the transfers. He slid a folder across the table. They have documents with your forged signature, copies of your licenses, even personal information that only someone close to you would know. I leafed through the papers, feeling violated. How did they get all this? That's what worries me, Jason said quietly. Someone with intimate access to your life is feeding them information. Someone besides your sister. The implication hung in the air between us. Could my father be more involved than he'd admitted? As we left the diner, a black SUV swerved toward us in the parking lot. Jason shoved me out of the way as the vehicle accelerated, clipping him and sending him sprawling across the pavement. The SUV sped away, but not before I glimpsed Ryan Jenkins behind the wheel. At the emergency room, Jason was treated for a broken arm and concussion. This isn't amateur hour anymore, he warned as doctors bandaged his wounds. These people are willing to cause serious harm. You need professional protection. That night, alone in my hotel room, I considered giving up. The securities seemed lost, my family fractured beyond repair, and now people were getting hurt. Maybe it wasn't worth it. Then my phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. Becky, it's me. I need help. Ryan isn't who I thought. I want out. Only Amanda called me Becky. I texted back. How do I know this is really you? The response came quickly. Remember when we were kids and you broke Mom's crystal vase? You took the blame even though I did it. You've always protected me, even when I didn't deserve it. My throat tightened. Where are you? I can't say. Ryan monitors my phone. But I can meet you. The securities aren't cashed yet. I can help you get them back. We arranged to meet at a public shopping center the following day. I texted Jason from a new burner phone, asking him to arrange surveillance. The next morning, I waited anxiously at the designated meeting spot. Amanda never showed. After 2 hours, Jason's associate approached me. We found signs of a struggle in the women's restroom, he said grimly. And this. He handed me Amanda's distinctive charm bracelet, one I'd given her for her 16th birthday. A small piece of paper had been folded inside one of the charms, with 3 words scribbled hastily. Lake House. Help. I'd been playing defense long enough. It was time to use my financial expertise offensively. Working with Thomas from the SEC, I created a sophisticated tracking system for any transactions matching the unique identifiers on my securities. Within 24 hours, we had our first hit-a-transfer attempt through a Caribbean bank. They're getting desperate, Thomas noted. Making mistakes. The routing is sloppy. Can we freeze the transaction? Better, he smiled. We can follow it to its source. Against everyone's advice, I booked a flight to Grand Cayman. I needed to confront this situation personally, to look into the eyes of the people trying to destroy my family. The Commonwealth Bank of the Caymans was a gleaming glass structure overlooking turquoise waters. I straightened my most professional suit and strode in with all the confidence of a senior financial advisor. I need to speak with Manager Reynolds immediately, I told the receptionist, presenting my credentials. SEC investigation, highly confidential. 10 minutes later, I sat across from a nervous-looking man in his 50s. These securities, I said, sliding across documentation, are being laundered through your institution. I have reason to believe one of your employees is facilitating this fraudulent transfer. Reynolds paled. That's a serious accusation, Miss Mitchell. One I can prove, I countered, revealing the tracking data Thomas had compiled. The SEC is prepared to launch a formal investigation, but I'm offering you the opportunity to handle this internally first. Financial institutions feared nothing more than regulatory scrutiny. Within an hour, Reynolds had identified the account manager involved and provided documentation of the attempted transfers. The securities were routed to this holding company, he explained, pointing to an address in Georgetown. But they haven't been liquidated yet. They're held in electronic escrow. Armed with this information, I left the bank, not noticing the black sedan that pulled away from the curb after me. I was halfway to my hotel when someone grabbed me from behind, dragging me into an alley. Ryan Jenkins slammed me against a wall, his forearm pressing against my throat. "You just don't know when to quit," he snarled. "You've caused enough problems." "Where's Amanda?" I gasped. "Safe. For now." His smile was chilling. "Unlike you." Two other men joined him, backing me deeper into the alley. I fumbled in my pocket for the personal alarm Aunt Catherine had insisted I carry, but one of the men knocked it from my hand. "The securities are already being moved," Ryan said. "You're too late, but we can't have you causing more trouble." As they closed in, a commanding voice rang out, "Step away from the lady!" A tall man in a hotel security uniform stood at the alley entrance, hand resting meaningfully on what appeared to be a concealed weapon. Ryan hesitated, then backed away. "Family disagreement," he said smoothly. "Nothing to worry about." "Ma'am?" the security guard questioned. "These men are attempting to defraud me," I stated clearly. "And they've kidnapped my sister." Ryan and his associates quickly retreated, disappearing around a corner. "Thank you," I breathed to my rescuer. "You have perfect timing." "Derek Mason," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "Head of security at the Regal Grand. And I've been following you since you left the bank." "Following me?" "Your aunt hired me," he explained. "I'm former military intelligence. She was concerned about your safety." Aunt Catherine, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Derek became an invaluable ally. His security background gave him contacts throughout the island, and within days we had built a comprehensive picture of Ryan's operation. "He's moving the securities through this network," Derek explained, showing me a complex diagram. "But he's hit a wall with the final transfer because of the security features you built in." "So the securities still exist? They haven't been cashed?" "Correct. They're in digital limbo right now. And I've located where I believe they're holding Amanda." We surveilled a beachfront villa for 2 days, confirming Amanda was inside and seemingly unharmed, though clearly under duress. We were formulating a rescue plan when my phone rang unexpectedly, Amanda's number. "Becky?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm alone for a minute. I need you to know Ryan is more dangerous than I realized. He has connections everywhere, even back home." "Are you okay? Has he hurt you?" "I'm fine, but scared. The securities are still intact. He can't crack the verification process without me convincing you to authorize the transfer." "What does he want?" "For me to set up a meeting with you. But it's a trap. He plans to force you to sign the transfers then." She didn't finish the sentence. "I'm in Grand Cayman," I told her. "We're coming to get you out." "No! Leave the island now. Ryan knows you're here. He's sending men to your hotel." Her voice became urgent. "Listen, I made a terrible mistake trusting him. He threatened me, said he'd hurt you if I didn't help him get the securities. I thought I was protecting you by cooperating. We can fix this together," I promised. "Just hold on. The securities are in a digital vault at Oceanic Trust. The access code is our grandmother's birthday plus the last 4 digits of your social. I set it up that way, so only you could ultimately access it." I heard voices in the background. "I have to go. Be careful." Derek and I abandoned our hotel, moving to a private rental on the opposite side of the island. That night, we formulated a plan to retrieve the securities and rescue Amanda. The next morning, I chartered a small boat, ostensibly for sightseeing. As we approached the rear of Ryan's villa, I spotted Amanda on the deck, alone. Derek circled to create a distraction at the front while I approached from the water. I was halfway to shore when something struck the boat hard. Water rushed in as the small craft began to sink. I plunged into the Caribbean, fighting the current toward shore. Something grabbed my ankle, Ryan, in scuba gear, his face contorted with rage even underwater. I kicked free, my lungs burning as I swam desperately for the surface. Breaking through, I gasped for air only to be pushed under again. The world went dark as water filled my lungs. Then suddenly I was being pulled upward, breaking the surface again as Derek hauled me into a rescue boat. Amanda signaled us, he explained as I coughed up seawater. She saw Ryan follow you into the water. Back at our safe house, as I recovered from my near drowning, my phone rang again, Amanda. Ryan knows I warned you. He's furious. We're leaving the island tonight. Where is he taking you? Back to the States. To the lake house, I think. Our family lake house in New Hampshire. A secluded property our father had purchased years ago. I'll meet you there, I promised. Just stay safe until then. There's something else, Amanda added, her voice breaking. I found out who's been feeding Ryan information about your finances and security. Who? Dad, she whispered. He's been working with Ryan from the beginning. I returned to Boston the next day, my mind reeling from Amanda's revelation. Could our father really be part of this conspiracy? The man who taught me everything about financial responsibility? At the hospital, Dad had been discharged but was still weak. He seemed genuinely remorseful as we talked in his living room. I've been a fool, he admitted. Enabling Amanda all these years only hurt her in the long run, and now she's in real danger because of my blindness. His contrition seemed sincere, making me doubt Amanda's accusation. Perhaps she had misinterpreted something, or Ryan had led her to believe Dad was involved to further isolate her. We need to help her, Dad said, gripping my hand. I think I know where Ryan might take her. The lake house. It's remote, private. If they're returning to the area, that's where they'd go. I was thinking the same thing, I agreed. But we should involve the police. Dad shook his head urgently. No. These people are dangerous and connected. If authorities show up, who knows what Ryan might do to Amanda? We need to handle this ourselves, get her away safely first, then involve law enforcement. His logic made sense, though something about his sudden commanding presence despite his health issues nagged at me. I'll drive us there tomorrow, he insisted. I know back roads they won't be watching. That night, Derek called from the Cayman Islands. I've been digging into the money trail, he said. There's something odd. The original Securities transfer request came from a Boston IP address several weeks before your sister accessed your safe. What are you saying? Someone else initiated this whole scheme before your sister got involved. Someone with intimate knowledge of your finances. A chill ran through me, but I pushed aside my suspicion. Keep digging. I'm heading to the lake house with my father tomorrow to find Amanda. Be careful, Derek warned. I'm flying back tonight. Text me the address. I'll meet you there. The drive to New Hampshire the next morning was tense. Dad seemed unnaturally calm for someone whose daughter was being held by dangerous criminals. I brought something to help us relax, he said, offering me a thermos. Your mother's chamomile tea. I sipped it gratefully, not noticing the slightly bitter aftertaste until my vision began to blur. Dad? I murmured, my tongue suddenly thick. Something's wrong. Just rest, he said calmly, taking the wheel as I slumped against the door. We're almost there. I drifted in and out of consciousness as we arrived at the lake house. Through foggy vision, I saw not Amanda, but Ryan Jenkins waiting on the porch. He helped my father carry my semi-conscious body inside. Did you have to drug her? Ryan asked, sounding annoyed. We need her coherent for the transfers. She was getting suspicious, Dad replied. This buys us time. I fought to stay awake, to comprehend the betrayal unfolding before me. My own father had drugged me and delivered me to Ryan. They propped me at the dining table, placing papers before me. Just your signature, Dad said softly. Then this will all be over. Why? I managed to whisper. Your own daughter? His expression hardened. I lost everything, Rebecca. My retirement investments collapsed 6 months ago, a Ponzi scheme I was too proud to admit I'd fallen for. I'm broke. Worse than broke, I'm in debt to people who don't accept bankruptcy as an excuse. So you stole from me? Borrowed, he corrected. I was going to replace them once I got back on my feet. Ryan offered a solution. Use the securities as collateral for a loan through his connections. But then you came home early and complicated everything. Where's Amanda? I slurred. Upstairs, Ryan answered. She's become a liability, too emotional about betraying her big sister. He pushed a pen into my hand. Sign the transfer authorization. I deliberately let the pen slip from my fingers. Can't. Too dizzy. Ryan cursed. How much did you give her? Enough to keep her compliant, not enough to knock her out, Dad snapped. Let me see my sister first, I insisted, playing for time. Derek would be looking for me, but he needed time to reach the remote location. Ryan hesitated, then nodded to one of his men. Bring the sister down. Maybe seeing her will motivate our financial advisor here. Amanda was brought downstairs, her face bruised, eyes widening when she saw me. Becky! I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't know what Dad was planning. I thought I was helping him with a temporary financial problem. Dad avoided her gaze. Just sign the papers, Rebecca. Then you both can go. You know that's a lie, I said, the drug beginning to wear off as adrenaline coursed through my system. They can't let us walk away after this. Ryan smiled coldly. Smart girl. But you'll sign anyway, because otherwise Amanda suffers the consequences first. I noticed my purse on the side table, where I'd hidden a small recording device at Derek's insistence. If I could just get them to confess to the entire scheme on tape, let me understand exactly what's happening, I said carefully. Dad lost his retirement in a Ponzi scheme and owes money to dangerous people. So he conspired with you, Ryan, to steal my inheritance using Amanda as an unwitting accomplice at first? That's about right, Ryan replied smugly. Though your father approached us, not the other way around. Said he knew about our operation through some old banking connections and wanted in. And the plan was always to force me to transfer the securities? Originally, we were just going to use your identity without your knowledge, Dad admitted. But the security protocols you designed made that impossible. We needed your physical signature and verification codes. So Amanda stealing the certificates was just the first step? Ryan laughed. Your sister wasn't supposed to actually take them. That was her going off script. She was just supposed to get information, but then she saw the opportunity and thought she could handle it herself, impress her new boyfriend. The irony, Dad added bitterly, is that her impulsiveness nearly ruined everything. Those paper certificates are worthless without the digital transfer authorization. I'd gotten enough. I reached for the pen. If I sign this, you swear Amanda goes free? Of course, Ryan lied smoothly. I pretended to review the documents, signing where indicated while trying to think of an escape plan. The lake house had few exits, and Ryan's men were positioned throughout. There, I said, finishing the last signature. Now let Amanda go. Ryan checked the documents, then nodded to one of his men. Take them both to the boathouse. Make it look like an accident. Gas leak, maybe, Dad startled. That wasn't the agreement. Ryan turned on him. There is no agreement, Richard. You're as implicated as we are now, and you know too much. Two men grabbed Amanda and me, dragging us toward the door. Dad lunged at Ryan but was easily overpowered. As they restrained him, I heard him shout, "The securities are worthless if you kill her." The final verification requires her voice authentication. It was a lie. There was no voice authentication, but it gave Ryan pause. Check it, he ordered one of his men. In that moment of confusion, I broke free and ran not toward freedom, but toward the kitchen where I knew a landline phone was located. I needed to call for help. I had just reached the phone when Ryan caught up, ripping it from the wall. He grabbed me by the throat, pushing me against the refrigerator. You've been nothing but trouble from the start, he snarled. Just like your sister. Should have handled this myself from the beginning. He dragged me outside to the boathouse where Amanda was already being held. His men had found containers of gasoline for the boats. Family tragedy, Ryan announced, splashing gasoline around. Faulty wiring in the old boathouse. Such a shame. They locked us inside, the fumes already making my eyes water. I'm so sorry, Amanda wept, as we heard a match strike outside. This is all my fault. Help me find something to break the window, I urged, searching frantically through the boating equipment. Smoke began seeping under the door as flames licked up the wooden walls. I found a boat hook and smashed at the small window high on the wall, but it was too reinforced to break easily. The fire spread quickly, the old wood catching rapidly. Amanda began coughing violently as smoke filled the space. The water, I realized suddenly. There's a trapdoor to the lake for the boat lift. Together, we pulled at the heavy wooden hatch in the floor. It opened just as the roof began to collapse, sending burning debris down around us. We jumped into the cold lake water below, swimming under the dock to avoid being seen. As we surfaced for air on the far side of the dock, gunshots rang out. I pulled Amanda behind a boat piling for protection. "They're going to kill us if we try to swim to shore," I whispered. Suddenly, more gunshots sounded, but from a different direction. Shouts of confusion came from near the burning boathouse. "FBI! Drop your weapons!" a familiar voice commanded. Derek. He'd brought help. In the chaos that followed, Amanda and I swam to shore further down the lakefront, emerging cold and exhausted but alive. FBI agents swarmed the property, apprehending Ryan and his associates. I saw my father being led away in handcuffs, his face a mask of defeat and shame. As our eyes met, he looked away, unable to face the daughter he had betrayed. Derek found us huddled under emergency blankets provided by paramedics. "Your aunt called me when you didn't check in," he explained. "And I brought friends from the Financial Crimes Division. Your recording device caught everything, by the way. Full confessions all around." I looked over to where Ryan was being placed in an FBI vehicle, his face contorted with rage. "What about Dad?" I asked quietly. Derek's expression softened. "He's being charged too. I'm sorry, Rebecca." In the distance, the boathouse collapsed entirely, flames shooting high into the New Hampshire sky, a fitting symbol of the family trust that had burned completely to ashes. The following week was a blur of FBI interviews, legal consultations, and hospital visits. Amanda had suffered smoke inhalation and minor burns, while I was treated for drug exposure and bruising. The Securities remained in limbo, technically recovered, but frozen as evidence in multiple federal crimes. "We'll need to track down everyone involved in the conspiracy," explained Agent Morales, the lead FBI investigator. "Your father and Ryan Jenkins were just parts of a larger network." Amanda was cooperating fully, detailing how Ryan had initially charmed her, then gradually revealed his true nature, threatening her when she wanted out. "I didn't know Dad was involved until I overheard them arguing about the plan," she admitted tearfully. "By then, Ryan wouldn't let me leave. He said he'd hurt you if I didn't help them." I was still processing the depth of our father's betrayal when Jason Taylor contacted me with urgent news. "They're moving Ryan to federal holding tomorrow," he said. "But I just intercepted communications suggesting his associates are planning something big, possibly an escape attempt during transport." "Why tell me? Shouldn't you inform the FBI?" "I did, but there's more. Amanda may still be in danger. My sources say Ryan made calls from detention, putting a price on both your heads for ruining his operation." I rushed to the safe house where Amanda was staying under protection. We needed to move her immediately. When I arrived, the FBI agents assigned to protect her were preparing for a shift change. "We need to relocate her now," I insisted, showing them Jason's evidence. "We can't move without authorization," the senior agent replied. As we argued, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Airport. Private airfield. Now. Ryan's people coming for Amanda." I showed the agent, who immediately called for backup. But it would take time for additional forces to arrive at our remote location. "We have to go," I told Amanda, grabbing her bag. "Derek says they're coming." We slipped out the back with one agent while the others prepared defenses at the front. The agent drove us toward the small regional airport where federal marshals would meet us. "How did they find me?" Amanda asked, her voice trembling. "Ryan has connections everywhere," I replied grimly. "We need to get you to federal custody in Washington." At the airfield, I spotted a private jet preparing for takeoff. Derek was waiting beside an FBI vehicle. "The marshals are 10 minutes out," he reported. "But we have another problem." He nodded toward the jet. Through the windows, I could see Ryan Jenkins being escorted aboard by men in suits, not law enforcement. How is that possible? He was in federal custody. Corrupt transport officers, Derek explained. They're taking him to a non-extradition country. We've alerted authorities, but they won't get here in time to stop the takeoff. I watched helplessly as Amanda was hurried toward the FBI vehicle. Suddenly, Ryan spotted us from the plane window. He shouted something to his men, who immediately changed direction, heading toward us with hands reaching inside their jackets. "Run!" Derek shouted, drawing his weapon. Gunfire erupted across the tarmac. We scattered, taking cover behind fuel trucks. I pulled Amanda with me, circling wide to reach the hangar for better protection. They can't leave with those securities, I realized aloud. Ryan still needs the final authorization. Which means he needs you alive, Amanda concluded. An idea formed. Listen, I told her urgently. The Securities have a hidden tracking mechanism built in a failsafe I designed for high-value instruments. Every transfer attempt leaves digital breadcrumbs. Even if they move them offshore, they'll never be able to cleanly liquidate them. Amanda's eyes widened. So they're essentially worthless to them? Without my specialized knowledge, yes. They don't know that, but we can use it. We formulated a desperate plan. While Derek kept Ryan's men occupied with covering fire, Amanda and I would approach the plane from the blind spot beneath the tail. If we could convince Ryan the securities were worthless without my cooperation, we might gain leverage. As we crept toward the jet, I saw Ryan descending the stairs, fury evident on his face. He was shouting at his associates, clearly changing plans to deal with our unexpected presence. "He's coming for us himself," I whispered to Amanda. "Get ready." We emerged from cover, hands raised. "Ryan!" I called out. "The securities are useless to you now." He paused, signaling his men to hold their fire. "What are you talking about?" "I built in a tracking mechanism. Every transfer attempt triggers alerts to financial authorities worldwide. They're watching every move." Ryan's face darkened. "You're bluffing. Why do you think the FBI found us at the lake? How do you think they knew about your offshore accounts? The securities themselves led them to you." Doubt flickered across his face. He turned to Amanda. "Is this true?" Amanda nodded. "She designed the system herself. It's why she was promoted so young. Her security protocols are revolutionary." Ryan's composure cracked. He grabbed Amanda roughly. "Then she'll have to come with us to disable it." "It can't be disabled," I countered. "It's hardwired into the certificates themselves." Ryan's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Then they're worthless to anyone." "Not to me," I replied. "I'm the only one who can legally claim them without triggering international banking alerts." For a moment, indecision played across Ryan's face. Then anger won. "If I can't have them, no one will." He shoved Amanda aside and lunged toward me, a knife appearing in his hand. Amanda screamed, throwing herself at him in a moment of unexpected courage. They tumbled to the ground, struggling violently. "The securities!" Amanda shouted to me as they fought. "They're in storage unit 782 at Boston Central Storage. The key is in my jacket pocket." Ryan roared with rage, his plans unraveling completely. He backhanded Amanda, sending her sprawling, then turned on me with murderous intent. Before he could reach me, sirens wailed as federal vehicles poured onto the airfield from all directions. FBI agents swarmed the area, weapons drawn. "FBI, freeze, weapon down." Ryan's associates surrendered quickly, but Ryan himself made a desperate dash for a fuel truck. Derek tackled him at the last moment, both men rolling across the tarmac in a violent struggle. Ryan broke free, his knife slashing toward Derek's throat. Without thinking, I grabbed a heavy wrench from a nearby maintenance cart and swung it at Ryan's arm. The knife went flying as he howled in pain. Federal agents swarmed him, forcing him face down on the concrete. As they handcuffed him, Ryan twisted to face me, his expression pure hatred. "This isn't over," he spat. "Your father made sure of that." I turned away from him to find Amanda sitting on the ground, blood trickling from her split lip, but a look of defiance in her eyes I'd never seen before. "You saved me," I said, helping her to her feet. About time I returned the favor, she replied with a shaky smile. Later that day, with Ryan and his entire network in custody, Amanda and I recovered the original securities from the storage unit. They had never actually been liquidated, just moved from place to place in preparation for the final transfers. As FBI agents cataloged the recovered certificates, Thomas from the SEC approached me. "Your tracking mechanism was brilliant," he said. "Using the unique registration numbers to trace every electronic transfer attempt." I glanced at Amanda, who raised an eyebrow questioningly. "Actually," I admitted, "there was no special tracking mechanism." I bluffed. Thomas stared at me, then burst out laughing. "That's even more brilliant. Sometimes the best security is the security people believe exists." 6 months passed. Spring arrived in Boston, bringing with it a sense of renewal that seemed appropriate for our healing family. The securities had been fully recovered and returned to my possession, though my professional reputation had suffered from the association with such a high-profile financial crimes case. Some clients left, uncomfortable with the publicity. Others stayed, impressed by my handling of the situation. I'd moved to a new home. The brownstone held too many painful memories, and was slowly rebuilding my practice with a new focus on security protocols for financial instruments. Amanda had entered a rehabilitation program for gambling addiction, showing genuine commitment to recovery. Our weekly coffee meetings had evolved from awkward to tentatively warm as we worked to rebuild what had been broken between us. 6 months sober, she announced proudly during our most recent meeting, showing me her recovery chip, both from gambling and from toxic relationships. "I'm proud of you," I told her sincerely. "That takes real courage." She fidgeted with her coffee cup. "I keep thinking about Dad. Have you visited him?" Our father had pleaded guilty to multiple federal charges, receiving a 12-year sentence at a medium security facility in Pennsylvania. The thought of seeing him still twisted my stomach into knots. "Once," I admitted. "It was difficult." I had sat across from him in the prison visiting room, separated by a scarred plastic table, struggling to reconcile this defeated man with the father who had taught me about financial responsibility and trust. "Why?" I had asked him simply. "I was drowning," he replied, unable to meet my eyes. "After the Ponzi scheme took everything, I owed money to dangerous people." I panicked. "You could have come to me. I would have helped you." "My pride wouldn't let me," he whispered. "I couldn't bear for you to see me as a failure. Instead, you became something much worse." He had no response to that. Now, sitting with Amanda, I found myself contemplating forgiveness, not for our father's sake, but for our own. "I've been thinking," I told her, "about using part of the securities to establish a foundation for victims of financial fraud. People who have nowhere to turn, like Dad claimed he didn't." Amanda nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds healing for everyone." The foundation became my passion project. Working with financial crime victims gave purpose to my pain, transforming betrayal into something constructive. Derek, who had remained in Boston after the case concluded, helped establish security protocols for the foundation. Our professional relationship had gradually evolved into something more personal. His steady presence and unshakable integrity provided a counterbalance to the betrayal I'd experienced. "Trust is like a financial investment," he told me one evening, as we walked along the Charles River. "You have to be careful where you place it, monitor it regularly, but ultimately accept that some risk is necessary for growth." I was learning to trust again, cautiously. Amanda was proving worthy of second chances, attending therapy faithfully, and making amends through her volunteer work at a gambling addiction hotline. "The counselor says I used gambling to fill the emptiness I felt from always being compared to you," she explained during one particularly honest conversation. "I resented your success instead of finding my own path. And I judged your choices instead of supporting your journey," I acknowledged. We were both guilty of seeing each other through distorted lenses, me viewing her as irresponsible, her seeing me as cold and judgmental. The truth, as always, was more complex. On a crisp autumn morning, I launched a financial literacy program through the foundation, offering free classes to vulnerable populations. I stood at the podium, surveying the classroom of attendees, when a familiar figure slipped into the back row. Amanda. She hadn't mentioned coming. After class, she approached shyly. That was really good. I actually understood most of it. There's still space in next week's session, I offered. She nodded. I'd like that. It was a small gesture, but significant. Amanda voluntarily stepping into my world, me welcoming her without judgment. That evening, I sat on my new balcony overlooking the city, reflecting on all that had happened. The Securities were safe, the criminals imprisoned, the immediate danger past. Yet the deepest wound, my father's betrayal, still ached. Perhaps complete healing wasn't possible. Some betrayals cut too deep for perfect recovery. But I was learning that healing didn't require forgetting or even full forgiveness, just the willingness to move forward, carrying the lessons instead of just the pain. Family bonds, like financial securities, carried both risk and reward. Their value couldn't be measured in dollars, but in the trust they represented. My father had cashed in that trust for temporary gain, discovering too late that its true worth was incalculable and its loss irreplaceable. As for Amanda and me, we were slowly rebuilding our sisterhood on a foundation of hard-earned honesty. The path forward wasn't clear or easy, but for the first time in months, it felt possible. Some securities, it turns out, can be replaced, but the most valuable ones, trust, integrity, family once broken, must be rebuilt piece by piece, with patience and care. The dividends of that investment, while slow to mature, promise the greatest returns of all. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle rebuilding or deciding not to rebuild that relationship? Share your experiences in the comments below. Every story of resilience helps others who might be going through similar struggles. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and hit that share button if this resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes our greatest strength emerges from our deepest wounds.